And you're very welcome along to episode 10. We made it to double figures. Who knew? It's the Dadcast, the podcast that nobody asked for, but at least 4 of you or 5 of you out there are listening to it and going, yeah, actually, this isn't bad. And hello to that Canadian woman who thinks we're the best podcast in the world. You are indeed right. Maybe you should listen to some other good podcasts. You know, like Serial, that's pretty good. Anyway, the dads are here. Some of the dads are here. Adrian is back in studio. How are you?
Good morning, lads. How are you getting on?
Nathan is here.
How's it going?
There is no dad from Dave McIntyre. Oh, hang on a second. We're getting a bit of a Skype connection. It's a dodgy Skype connection to the city of brotherly love. Hello, Dave.
Whoa, that's a lot of no's. Whoa.
Back up.
Wait a second.
Good morning, Jen.
That looks a lot like the clinic where you would go to get the snip.
It may do. I don't know if it does. I haven't been there yet. I'm still procrastinating on that. I still have put that on the long finger. But yeah, good morning for me anyway from Philadelphia.
Yeah, so you're part of this legendary, it will become legendary because it's going to be the last one ever, touring party where there are more journalists than All-Stars on the All-Stars trip.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Verney for that lovely piece that he did yesterday.
Is Michael Verney there?
No. Do you think he'd be writing such a piece if he was here?
Wow.
Yeah, look, it's an All-Stars tour with a different tack this time around. They've gone for coaching sessions as opposed to the traditional game that they would have played with last year's All-Stars team playing this year's All-Stars team. And it turns out, when the numbers were stacked up, there are more of us than there are of them. I don't know how that happened, but apparently that is the case, yes.
Anyway, this is the Dadcast, so we'll skewer you about that on the radio sometime on Off the Ball. But in the meantime, you're away from your children, so congratulations. I presume you had a great night's sleep.
I didn't really, actually. You know, when you come over to the States, you kind of face a little bit of a battle where you're thinking, if I could just get through to 10 or 11 in the evening, which is obviously 3 or 4 in the morning Irish time, well, then I'll sleep like a baby. But I got into bed at 1 o'clock this morning and I was staring at the ceiling at 6 a.m. So, unfortunately, the jet lag hasn't actually allowed me to enjoy the fact that I had a hotel room to myself and there was no bottles to be made and no reason to be getting out of bed. But maybe tonight will be a bit better. Do I feel guilty about leaving the 2 boys at home? No. Definitely not.
A smidgen of guilt. You missed them. Did you Skype them live last night?
By the time I was able to Skype them, one of them was already in bed. So I did chat with one of them, the older guy who was up for some reason. And I will do today. I don't know, are they asking where Daddy is? I hope they are. Part of you thinks you don't want them to miss you too much because, well, you don't want them to be upset or anything. But I'm away for 6 days, so I think by the end of it, I'll definitely miss them, yeah.
6 days in the All-Star trip. Holy moly, that's a lot of coaching clinics.
Well, it's 5 nights. We fly out on a Thursday afternoon and we get back on a Wednesday morning. So it's 5 nights, 6 days when you throw the time difference in. But it's probably the first time I've been away from the 2 of them. I think Nathan will tell you, we spent a lot of time over in England and Wales during the 2015 World Cup. That was probably the longest I'd been away from them when there was only the one. And you do miss them, but you get over pretty quickly.
No. When you were leaving, were you like, what was that like when you were heading off? Was it sort of an emotional, did you make it very clear to them that, lads, I'm out of here, I'm out of your lives for the next week?
Yeah, the older guy was going around telling everyone all week that I was heading to Africa. Despite me telling him several times where I was going, he knew I was going to a continent that wasn't Europe. He just wasn't quite sure whether it was Africa or America. He was actually in Montessori when I was heading to the airport. The younger guy who's just gone too, he had the sense something was going on and he was quite upset as I was getting out of the car and taking my bag and realised, yes, he was at the airport, but he wasn't actually going to get on a plane, which did actually upset him significantly. But overall, I think they're a bit too young to be really missing me, and I think they'll get over it. They'll certainly get over it when they see what I might be bringing back for them.
What are you going to get them, like a pair of socks or something?
I'm not sure. I'll certainly have to spend a bit of time looking at what's on offer over the next day or two. But I'm really more concerned about what we're going to be doing over here. We're heading to see the Eagles on Monday night. I'm not going to worry about what's going on in Dublin too much because I can't do anything about it. But when I do come home and I have something in it with me and my one arm isn't as long as the other, as they say, they'll be happy enough. Like, I don't know, do you guys feel guilty when you get away from your kids for a couple of nights? Like, why would you?
I don't know, Dave. Are you your usual blunt self then when you're away from home and your wife texts you and says, oh, I've had a tough day? Like, are you straight up, not my problem, honey. I'm in America, on the lash. See you in 5 days.
Well, I haven't got that text yet, but we all look, we've all been in that situation where you are being informed of something that's going on and that's pretty chaotic back at home, over which you've no control and you can do nothing about it. And all that's really happened is that your own mood has also been soured, but completely unnecessarily. Like, what's the point in it? I don't understand why that happens.
So listen, you go through all the shit, love. You just look after things back there. I'm over it. If things go to shit, I don't even want to know about it. You're ruining my buzz.
Well, I think it was Paul Carrington who said, obviously he spends a huge amount of time away from home, and he spent those first few years when the kids were born, and there's a touch of guilt all the time, and I need to get back. And eventually he hit a moment where he said, I'm actually just going to enjoy this. I have to be away. It's my job to be away. I'm not going to spend all evening in the hotel room going, I wish I was at home. I'm just actually going to go and enjoy the city I'm in and try and enjoy my life as best I can.
Is that not like an active decision to not miss your children? That feels a bit...
No, you're always going to miss your children. You're not going to just feel sorry for yourself. There's nothing you can do. If you're away with work or you're away for some reason... Now, Dave, of course, could have opted out of that trip easily. It's not work. It's literally just the greatest junket of all time. It's essentially a holiday with the lads for a week in Philadelphia. But if you are away with work... Like, I have the worst story of all time of being away from work. You mentioned the Rugby World Cup.
Bad stories is something we love to hear in the Dadcast. Nathan,
so Rugby World Cup, myself and Dave, what was it, 7 weeks, Dave? We did every second week in Burton-on-Trent and Guildford and such glamorous places like that. So I fly over on a Tuesday. That evening I get a call from my wife. Saka's chicken pox. I'm like, ooh, how bad? Very, very, very bad.
How far away are you into this? So it's on Tuesday of your week away.
I am literally have landed about 8 hours previously.
So you're away for
So I start getting. I will show you.
You're breaking up there. Hello.
Yeah. I will. I'll show you the photographs. So it was a horrific case of the chicken pox.
Like on the eyelids.
On the eyelids, inside the ears, you name it, top to bottom. So, I'm obviously getting the calls, and I'm like, well, I have to eat and have a drink in the evening, so obviously I'm in the pub. Like, there's nothing I can do about that again. Potter Carrington said that he was away.
Listen, Denny.
Oh, boss. And so, yeah.
Microphone fell.
My mic.
All that was.
No, my mic is still on. That's all right. It's just my headphones.
Noise.
So, she has an unbelievably tough week. Fair play, her mother came over and helped out and everybody chipped in and they managed to get him through the week. So I come home the following Tuesday, like, this child looks $1 million.
Bit of scarring, it's okay.
He still has a few little scars here and there around his ears. I'm like, it looks great. She's like, didn't sleep for about 4 days solid. You know, an absolute screaming in agony at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yeah, it sounds bad, but right now he looks pretty good to me. So I spend the week at home. He's fine, back in school. I go back the next Tuesday. This is no word of a lie. I think I had a 6:30 flight. I'm sitting on the plane on the tarmac in Dublin, and she sends me a photo of our youngest, covered head to toe in chicken pox.
That gestation period is just perfect.
Oh,
it's like 9 days.
Like, you couldn't have made it up. I'm literally sitting on the tarmac. I can obviously
get off.
I'll respond to this when I get
I haven't seen this.
It's like, we're already moving. There was absolutely
Last scene, 7 minutes past 2.
Oh, and another week of just absolute hell all the while. I'd love to say I was living it up, but as Dave can attest to, it was pretty difficult to live it up in Burton-on-Trent.
Right.
So no guilt, Dave? Not yet.
Well, there's no point to it. What is the point of guilt? You haven't done anything wrong. It's the only downside is that you do miss them. It also depends in what the circumstances are when you're leaving. 2 weeks ago, I probably would have been absolutely delighted to get away on this trip, but such was the how will I put it? 1 or 2 behavioural issues on the domestic front, and I'm not talking about the adults in the house. But honestly, in the last 2 weeks, like, the 2 kids have just been angelic almost. And you're thinking, like, I'm desperately going to miss them over the next 5 or 6 days. And I do look forward to the little chances you get to have a little chat with them when you're away. But, I mean, guilt is definitely too strong a word. I don't feel guilty at all.
There is another advantage, Dave, that if you return and the behavioural issues have returned as well, it's clearly your wife that's the problem. She's the one who's leading them astray.
I am not responding to that statement.
That's the wisest thing you've ever done, Dave. I find that 3 days away, fine, but days 4 and 5 are the days you start to go, I actually miss them. This is the bit where you, like, properly miss all the stuff, all the good parts about it.
Like, you're talking, it sounds like there's a consensus of nobody should feel guilty about this.
Well, if you got to go for work, you got to go for work. I mean, Dave's on a junket, so that's a bit different.
But it's possible to feel guilty and also enjoy yourself.
Yeah, that's his point.
Right.
I think there's always going to be a little bit of guilt, but rather than letting that overtake your trip away, that actually you just go and enjoy it as much as you can. No, there's not with guilt.
I'm not guilty. There's no guilt. There's absolutely zero guilt coming from my side.
Yeah, no, we get that. Dave. That's loud and clear. All the way from Philadelphia. I do wonder on the flip side, if for any of us, if our wives were to say, "Listen, I'm just off for 6 days on a jolly to Philadelphia. Now, good luck with the kids. I'll see you next week." I wonder how any of us, having come fresh from
What's the longest you've spent on? You've obviously not spent any time yet on your own with the two.
Not with the two, but with the one. I'd say a night.
Now I have no sympathy for just the one and the difficulties of that, because it's like that's a happy time when you only had one child.
Well, I appreciate that now.
You can go to bed now, and I'll see you later in like 8 hours.
One night was probably the max that I had to do.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done more than 2 nights.
2 nights.
Definitely not.
2 nights and a couple of hours
3
on the
nights.
side.
And that was tough
3 nights in
going.
the summer was grand.
Go on again, Dave.
3 nights in the summer I did, and it was fine. Absolutely fine. Now, there was a lot of help from outside parties.
So are we saying that you were left in charge, but you left the kids with your parents?
Basically.
Well, it did so happen that my wife was away over a weekend, and I was working on the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday of that weekend. So yeah, people had to be drafted in just to act as a buffer.
But that doesn't actually count, Dave. You do know that. I know.
Well, all 3 nights I had them on my own.
But
I'm not trying
they were
looking for a
asleep.
medal here. Yeah, they slept very well. It was not a burden at all. Just as I'm assuming these 5 days is not a burden for her.
Yeah, I wouldn't make that assumption too loud in public. You showing us the pictures of
That's number one.
Oh, Jesus, the eyes.
The eyes are not in a good state.
And he's smiling away, though, to be fair to him.
Yeah. Nathan's showing us pictures for podcast listeners of the...
I don't think I'm putting pictures of my children
box.
up on the...
No,
he's not putting them up on the show.
No chance. Yeah,
God,
it's not pretty.
They're bad, aren't they? I mean, that's,
terrific. Now there is the get them young.
Yeah.
So what's the idea with chicken pox? You get it when they're
Yeah,
baby,
then
and
you
it's...
develop an immunity.
And what's the
Because
adult...
it's truly horrific if you get them as an adult.
Yeah, you infertility and all that sort of stuff.
But you can't... How do you contract them as an adult?
I guess the same way.
Which is what?
That you haven't...
Child spits on you. you share a banana with somebody? I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I mean, it's important that we answer these medical questions for people
With
in a
no
timely,
level of accuracy
timely
whatsoever.
fashion. It's like, it'll be fine. Dave, we're going to let you go and enjoy the morning in Philly. What have you got planned before the Eagles game on Monday night?
Not an awful lot. Going to watch a lot of sport. We watched the Saints Cowboys last night, which was a brilliant game. And I think there's a couple of bits that we have to do. There's an event tonight that we'll attend. And Sunday, I think, we've got the Liverpool derby, the North London derby, and then a whole pile of NFL to watch. So, that's pretty much sums up the next couple of days.
And a bit of shopping.
Definitely some shopping. And I'll do a bit of work as well, just for what's coming down the track in the days to come, but nothing too exercising.
Well, enjoy, Dave. One of the many GAA on the All-Stars trip, and so few of those players were able to make it despite the enjoyment that they thrilled us with last summer. Good luck, Dave. Thanks very much for joining us.
Does the guilt lessen as your children get older? Because also, so when they get older, you can talk to them on FaceTime or Skype or whatever, and then you realise that they don't want to talk to you.
Oh no, they're fine. Yeah, they're fine. But
you talk to them for 2 minutes and then they're like, yeah, whatever.
I think guilt and actually missing them are different things, right? Like the guilt is like, yeah, okay, whatever. This is just a quirk of the job that you have to do it.
Well, the guilt is more deep rooted. The guilt is more like I'm abandoning some parenting. No, but like the guilt is related to some sort of a sense of parenting responsibility, or however you want to word it like that. Actually, there's something more deep rooted here, like that it's my absence is going to somehow
make them lesser people.
You know what I mean? Like that, it might be some sort of knock-on impact of
later in life they'll be like
whatever. I don't know. Whereas the missing them ultimately is more a selfish sort of. I'd like to spend time with my children.
Well, I don't know.
The missing them is only related to you.
I don't know if that's, but it, like I don't know if it's selfish to have love for somebody so much that you miss their presence.
I don't mean selfish in the self-centered way. I mean selfish in the sense of it's really only you miss them. That's really all that is.
It's a reciprocal feeling. Like your kids will miss you.
Yeah,
they will.
No, I know that. But what I'm saying is the guilt thing is related to something else. Like I shut the door when I came in here after 2.5 weeks at home on sort of parental leave, and I absolutely felt guilty when I closed the door behind me to come in here on Wednesday. I mean, I felt guilty because I was very pleased to be leaving it all behind me.
That is fair enough.
That's a statement of fact. It was. I literally closed the door behind me. I stopped. I took a long, deep breath, and I walked out the driveway. And I just licked my heels. I got a coffee on the way into work.
That period of my life is over.
Yeah, it's bloody tough going. It is
tough going.
It's way tougher than I don't know if I made that point last week. It's way tougher than actual work. Like it's
parenting.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
The 2.5 days on your own with the 3 kids. You're like, single parenting is the hardest thing in the world, especially if there's no one coming home at the end of the 2 days to go, okay, they're yours now.
Just for some reason, I think my wife can handle it far better.
Well, that was the point I was making about if your wife was away for a period of time and you
That's what I
had to
mean.
cope with all that,
Like
you'd crumble. I would crumble.
For some, I've spent long periods of time away from home, and for some reason I always feel that my wife is doing a good job. Whereas if it was the other way around, if my wife went away for 5 weeks, dear God.
When did you go away for 5 weeks?
Euro 2016.
Okay. What age were they then?
3 and 2. No, it was only 2 years ago, so 4 and 3 maybe. But they came over for 3 days.
That's when you wrecked the apartment.
Yeah.
Nathan wrecked the apartment and we didn't get our deposit back. Actually, somebody, we don't know who it was, it might have been his kids.
I don't know if they dropped a ton weight on top of that cooker. It's not my problem.
Luckily, the accountant at the time has moved on.
I met him earlier on today, actually.
So this is no longer an issue that it probably was at the time. That now seems excessive. In retrospect, to go away for 5 weeks with kids that age.
Yeah.
Did you not get home for 3 days as well?
Well, there wasn't really an opportunity.
Oh, we've got to fix something now.
I think at the time there was no possibility of me going home.
Guys, Nathan was banging our door down the time. If you remember rightly, he was very keen to try and get home, but is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Hey, right, so you engineered a 5 week.
Adrian just would not let me return home, no matter.
Stay all the way to the final.
What?
There's nothing between the semi-final and the final for a whole week.
No, gotta stay. See the sights.
Okay. Well, so what's the longest that you could go away without it? Now, you couldn't do that again, could you?
Not right now.
What do you mean you couldn't do it again?
Like, are you saying, could I go to Japan for 6 weeks for the Rugby World Cup next year? Like, I wouldn't rule it out, Chair.
None of us ruling anything in or anything out on that front.
It worked out. All my trips have worked out quite well timing-wise, because generally my wife's a teacher, so generally they're during the summer, or she was on maternity leave. So there wasn't, like this year with the World Cup, I couldn't go because we literally wouldn't have had anyone to mind the kids.
Because it was in
June. She was still at work. You would have had, a month or 5 weeks of trying to get somebody to bring them different times, all that. So there's like the logistical side of it that it can work out quite well.
Yeah.
We're not, as a gender, especially weight pulling, are we? Like, when we're all saying we would,
You two said it.
I'm sorry.
Just want to clarify that.
Yeah. What are you saying?
You two said it. I'm just saying that.
Are you saying that you...
What do you, in what way?
Well, like, we're all saying... I'm speaking for Ger here. And
You two
I'm
said it.
speaking for Dave. We'd all crumble if we were left in charge of the kids for any period of time.
Yeah, well, I think...
He was left with them McIntyre was left with them for a weekend.
Yeah, no,
and he literally did nothing. He went to work and he, seems like he put them to bed afterwards.
I'm not saying that their clothes are going to be ironed. But they'd be grand.
That's what I'm saying. I would have I would do that thing that the day before my wife comes home, I would tidy the house.
Yeah.
But she would see the deep-rooted dirtiness that has built up over the period while she's left.
The chaos and disorganisation would not be evident, really, until about an hour after she got home and everything's like, hang on a second, what is that? He's wearing her clothes.
I wouldn't rule out if I had the kids for a full weekend that I wouldn't go very early on day 2. Well, it's a 2.5 hour drive to Ballyhonus. It's 2.5 hours back. and I can give my parents the kids for a good 5 hours while I'm there.
Yeah.
So,
Well worthwhile.
well, it's well worthwhile making that trip.
It guarantees me 5 hours sleep in the
Yes.
next 9 hours. That sounds
But there's
like
I definitely have found now with two, I'd say we have found with two that like there's an immersion into a new world of craziness that you just like, it's like going into a war zone, right? Like, and then at some point or another you become functional with just operating in a war zone.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you know, if you stop and think about it for too long, it's quite depressing in a lot of ways, but you know.
Yeah, your life is over. Your life
Yeah.
as you knew it is
Yeah,
over,
yeah.
and now
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
completely different thing. And at some point in your future, you will regain some aspects of the old life, but you will be too old at that point to enjoy it in a way that you didn't
I
realise
can
at the
take
time.
solace from that, Jared. That's
You definitely can't. It's over.
I found as well, right, that I don't know if you found this, but after you have kids, that when people come around, like they don't give a shite about how you are or how you're getting on or anything about
yeah.
you, despite your personal journey over the preceding short.
You
period
should.
of time.
I hope you say that to them. Do you want to hear about my personal
No, I
journey?
say this to people all the time. Like it's like, oh, don't worry about me. I'm grand. Like I'm knackered. This is like one of the most traumatic things I've ever been through. I know that. It's like, here's how I equate it right now.
There's your family.
Everybody.
Mostly,
right?
yeah.
Like, bear with me on this one. But let's say two friends go off to war, right?
You're really going with this war
One
now.
little toy.
Huh?
Each had a wooden horse.
Yeah, anyway, right. Two people go off to war. Two best friends go off to war, right? And war is pretty traumatic for everybody, right? They see a lot of things, they do a lot of things, and they pick up injuries. Now, friend A gets some, worse physical injuries than friend B, so they both come home, and friend A is getting all this sympathy. Now, friend B has just had like an unbelievable experience and has some injuries too, but nobody gives a shite about them. And that's how I think about the man's role in this sort of thing. You've been to war and you've seen some things, and you're pretty tired.
But that's why you then only end up. That's why we're doing this podcast in many ways, because we're all getting treated at the same time, and we've nothing to do but chat about how shit it is.
But anyway, look,
You don't want to hang around with your mates who don't
Come
have
back
kids.
from war. Yeah.
Or don't want to, and they don't want to listen to your shite.
No.
Well, all I'm saying is friend A gets all the sympathy.
Who were that guy, Adrian?
They're like,
Yeah, I mean, friend A's traumatic experience is definitely way worse.
so that's the point. It's way
Like,
worse, and it's
a beach ball
terrible.
comes out her vagina.
But what I'm
And
saying,
you're like,
what I'm saying
hey,
is,
hang on a second, I saw that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
but
like,
like-
I held her leg up while it was happening.
Come on.
okay, I mean when you put it like that, but you know what I'm saying. Like I've had a toe blown off. Let's say I don't know, like whatever the equivalent.
Exactly.
equivalence is, right? Give me some. I need some. Ask how my foot is. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, so
Are you okay, Adrian?
No, now that you ask, it's been tough going.
How much sleep did you get last night?
I slept all the way through. The baby is sort of feeds at maybe 11 o'clock, and then maybe either 3 or 4, and then again about 8 o'clock.
are the feeds long or the like?
They can be like half an hour, 45 minutes.
They
now,
tend to
so.
stretch and stretch and stretch, and it's like.
But then the longer the stretch, the better, right? Because then it's like, now you can stop at 11:30, and you might start again at 7, for example. The longer they get,
maybe I like some of them are just like lazy little snackers who are like,
she's an awful snacker. Yeah.
Oh, the worst kind. Yeah, the lads are like
The
that.
nurse said to us, sorry, when we were leaving. Now, listen, middle of the night, she needs to know this is business time.
Yeah.
This is not snack
Oh, yeah.
time. Like no lights on, no sort of cute faces or cuddles. It's
darkness.
Yeah.
maybe
Go for it, like,
Yeah.
highlights so you can.
But I do sleep all the way through, and I'm mostly entirely unaware that there's any feeding going on.
Friend of the show, David Snade, emailed in. Dadcast@offtheball.com is the email address, by the way, for your email queries and questions. I've started feeding my son, 3.5 months old now, with my eyes closed during the night feeds. This is not boasting. I just want to know if it's acceptable. Regards.
It's not, I don't think, by all accounts, like acceptable to be asleep. What age is the child?
3.5.
3.5 is probably all right because you can have them on their head and they're grand.
3.5 months.
Months?
Yeah.
Oh, right. No,
we had
that's not
our
acceptable at all.
child pretty much the same time, because the week before they were both due. We met each other in Hollis Street.
All right, there you go.
And had that knowing look
All right.
of what was around the corner. I do that. Now, we're in a glorious position, David, where our child doesn't wake up during the night anymore, so we don't have to do a night feed, which is
your newest one?
Our 3.
Wow.
She is the greatest child that has ever lived.
right.
10:30, bit tired now, I'll go to bed. 8:30 the next morning, up she gets.
Wow, that's class.
It is. I don't know how it's happened.
Wow.
It's miraculous. Now, we were a bit smarter this time in like that night feed, when she was pretty much from a couple of weeks in. She was only waking once, but it was pick her up, bottle in, not a single word said. I would definitely have half fed her with my eyes closed. and straight back in.
Stages.
No hugs, no kisses, no acknowledgement at all. I think at 3.5 months it's all right.
3.5 months, you're probably...
Because it probably goes on the whole...
I think the no eyes closed is perfect. Or your eyes closed is like...
No, but you're asleep. Your eyes closed is you're asleep.
The only danger is, it's not that, like, even though I think they can technically choke from the milk, but the only danger is that, and my worry was always that the baby just fall out of your arms and off the bed.
The obvious other thing is somebody had said that they'd... So Nathan has a trick of feeding his children free stuff from the supermarket, as in free stuff they've stolen.
I feel very guilty about it now. I feel like people are watching me.
They are. So people have emailed us and tweeted us at Dadcast Pod on Twitter, saying that they've tried the croissant trick and that they won't finish the croissant by the time you get around. So, which is exactly the problem you had. That you need
With the pretzels.
Oh,
No, the
pretzels.
croissant is fine. The pretzel was the problem.
Pretzel was too big, but a story reported by Ralph Riegel in the Irish Independent last week was of particular interest to readers of the Dadcast, and so my thanks to the various people who got in touch with us about this. Simon Fallon at the Rookie Fowl, who it looks like is also a golf pod nerd. But anyway, thanks for getting in touch. A judge jailed a young woman for 2 months for causing criminal damage to a €1.50 tub of Pringle tubes in a Tesco supermarket. Judge Brian O'Shea jailed Kathleen McDonough at Cork District Court after hearing she opened the crisp container in a Tesco outlet at Christmas 2016. She pleaded guilty to causing criminal damage to the 150 package of potato snacks at the Tesco outlet in the Mahon Point shopping complex on December 27, 2016. So Nathan, you're not only...
I think there's more to that story.
I suspect that's not in isolation.
I think if you keep reading the story, you'll find that there was previous.
You're breeding a criminal class here.
Here, what else could you have that you could get away with?
Pick a mix is the pick a mix always works.
But you'd have to put it in the bag, so you'd have to pay for something of the pick a mix.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like one sweet and oh, I'm just having one jelly bean today.
Yeah, or the cookies. That was the other one that I used to go shopping with a friend of mine. She'd be like, "No, I'm just going to go over to the cookies. No, it's free. It's fine." We were on J1 on J1 in America. I was like, "This is America."
Yeah.
As
I said, I justify it as the croissant is my club card points. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, because you don't use your receipts.
This is my bonus for coming to shop, and
you
you're...
can look at it whatever way you want. It's stealing, but whatever.
Find the evidence.
I don't think anybody's going to go there.
After the chat about how much TV to let your kids watch, this is Andy Furlong had linked to us about don't be showing your kids any screen time. Also, I hate this whole every kid gets a medal culture. We'll talk about that again some other time. Andy Furlong says, I love the cast, by the way. My wife and I are expecting in 2 weeks. You guys have made me way more relaxed about everything. Uh-oh.
Really?
That was a mistake. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Cry laughing. Yes, it's a very bad thing. You shouldn't be relaxed. You should be enjoying your last 2 free weeks of freedom. Thank you very much. Keep the kid going. I don't know if we have any choice at this point. We didn't really talk to you properly about the whole birth experience.
Yeah.
We've got no time now, so we might do that next week.
Put it back for another week.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll already get the sense of...
You'll be less traumatised.
No, profound is the word I'm using, and I'm sticking with it.
As in, this time it's had an impact that the first one didn't?
Well, the first one was a C-section, so it was an entirely different experience, and this one was, as loads of people call it, which I've a growing slight issue with, a normal birth. Like,
natural?
No? Vaginal birth is the correct expression. People sort of...
Are scared to use the word.
They're scared to say the word vagina.
But is it vaginal or vaginal?
I think if you're American, it's probably vaginal.
Ah.
There you go. That was it.
Cleared that up, I'm sure.
Poor Enda's just walking in.
Like, what the hell has just happened?
We need to record the next show.
Or you want to say,
I'm going to leave again. So there you go. We've
wow.
One conundrum has been fully fixed in your mind about the correct pronunciation. And if nothing else, the 10 episodes of the podcast have all been leading to that moment. Is it vaginal or vaginal?
Forever.
That may well be the very last podcast. You'll have to stay tuned to your podcast feeds, and we will be back hopefully one more time. Who knows? Or not. Good luck. Thanks very much for joining us.